Stampede. The POWs knew something big had happened. Guards paced around with stricken faces. Civilians walked past camp, eyes dazzled, hands in fists. A civilian told the POWs that one American bomb had destroyed an entire city. He used a word that sounded like atomic. The word was unfamiliar, and no one knew how one bomb could wipe out a city. At Amori, the shaken Japanese commander gathered the POWs. One plane came, he said, and a whole city disappeared. He asked if anyone knew what weapon could do such a thing. No one had an answer. On August 9th, the city of Nagasaki, like Hiroshima, disappeared. Uneasy days passed. Everything in Natsu remained the same, and the POWs were still sent to labor in the war production factories. Clearly, something monumental had happened, but Japan hadn't given in. For the POWs, time had all but run out. It was near mid August, and the kill all policy loomed. Even if Japan surrendered, many POWs believed the guards would murder them anyway, out of vengeance or to prevent them from testifying in war crimes trials. With officials talking about taking them to a new camp, the POWs believed the Japanese planned to murder them in the mountains where no one could ever find them. Louis lingered in his bunk, fading, praying. In nightmares, he and the bird fought death matches. The bird trying to beat him to death, Louis trying to strangle the sergeant. He'd been staying as far as he could from the bird, but the sergeant always hunted him down. Then abruptly the violence stopped. The bird was gone. The guard said he was in the mountains preparing the new camp. The August 22nd kill all day was 1 week away. On August 15th, Louis woke gravely ill. He was having 20 bloody bowel movements a day. In 1 month, he lost 13 pounds from a frame already dangerously thin. His legs were strangely swollen. He'd seen too many men die to be ignorant of what this meant. Potentially fatal beriberi was setting in. In late morning, Louis crept from the barracks. With the bird away, it was safer to walk in the open. He saw gentle Agawa, the potato field overseer, one of the few Japanese he didn't fear. But when he saw Louis, Agawa yanked out his club and struck him in the face. Louis reeled in astonishment, his cheek bleeding. A few minutes later, the compound was suddenly eerily silent. The Japanese were all gone. In the factories, the POWs realized they were alone. The guards had left. Frank Tinker walked through the deserted Natsu compound. Passing the guard room, he glanced inside. There were the guards crowded around a radio, listening to a small Japanese voice. Something of great importance was being said. At the factories, the guards reappeared and told the POWs to get back to work. When Ken Marvin returned to his station, he found no one working. He spotted Bad Eye, the guard who'd been teaching bad English. Marvin asked why work had stopped. Bad Eye said there was no electricity. Marvin looked around, then turned to Bad Eye and told him the lights were on. Bad Eye replied solemnly, "The war is over." Marvin began sobbing. As the workers marched to camp, Marvin hurried among them, sharing what Bad Eye had said. No one believed it. Everyone had heard this rumor before, and it had always turned out to be false. In camp, nothing had changed. In the morning, the work crews were told there was no work. There was no work and dismissed. The men began to wonder if Marvin was right. The guards would say nothing. A day passed with no news. When night fell, the men saw the village glowing. The civilians had taken their blackout shades down. As a test, the POWs removed the shades on the barracks windows. The guards ordered them to put them back up. If the war really had ended, the guards were hiding it from the POWs. The kill-all date was 5 days away. The next day, Louis was sicker still. He'd been vomiting for 2 days. He scrawled sad words in his diary. Look like skeleton, feel weak. The bird reappeared. Louis saw him outside. He watched the sergeant's back as he stepped into his office and closed the door. On the 17th of August, at Rokuroshi POW camp on the frigid summit of a Japanese mountain, a telephone rang. Phil, Fred Garrett, and the other Rokuroshi POWs were shivering through the summer. The guards had nailed the barracks doors shut. In this remote, deathly quiet camp, the telephone hardly ever rang, and the POWs noticed it. A few minutes later, the Japanese commander hurried down the mountain. All summer, the Rockoroshi prisoners had been racked with tension. The sky was scratched with bomber vapor trails. One night in July, the horizon had lit up red, generating light so bright the men could read by it. On August 15th, the guards had suddenly become much more brutal. After the commander left, something troubling happened. The guards began dividing the POWs into small groups and herding them deep in the forest, then back to camp. Later, the walks were repeated. The guards seemed to be habituating the men to this routine in preparation for something terrible. On August 20th, under a threatening sky, there was a shout in Natsu compound. All POWs were to assemble outside. The camp commander spoke, a translator beside him. The war has come to a point of cessation. There was no reaction from the POWs. Some believed it, but kept silent for fear of reprisal. Others thought it was a trick. With the POWs waiting in a suspicious silence, the translator invited the men to bathe in the river. This was odd. The men had almost never been allowed in the river. Louis and the others dragged down to the water, dropping clothes, and waded in. They scattered, scrubbing their skin, unsure what was happening. Then they heard it. It was the howl of an aircraft engine, huge, low, and close. The swimmers looked up and first saw nothing but white sky. Then there it was, bursting from the clouds, a torpedo bomber. As the men watched, the bomber dove, leveled off, and skimmed over the water, engine screaming. It was headed straight toward the POWs. In the instant before the plane shot overhead, the POWs could just make out the cockpit, and inside the pilot standing. Then the bomber was upon them. On each side of the fuselage there was a broad white star in a blue circle. The plane wasn't Japanese, it was American. The plane's red code light blinked frantically. A POW read the signals and suddenly cried out, "Oh, the war is over!" In seconds, masses of naked men were stampeding up the hill. As the plane turned loops above, the POWs swarmed the camp, out of their minds with relief and rapture. Their fear of the guards and the massacre they awaited was gone, dispersed by the muscle of the bomber. The prisoners jumped, shouted, and sobbed. Some scrambled onto the roofs, waving and singing out to the pilot above. Others piled against the camp fence, sent it crashing over, and lit it on fire. The Japanese shrank back and withdrew. In the midst of the celebrating men, Louis stood on wavering legs, wet, emaciated, and sick. In his tired mind, two words were repeating themselves over and over: "I'm free, I'm free, I'm free." A battered Australian was sitting at the water's edge, watching the bomber. When he saw something flit out of the cockpit and fall toward the river, he stood up and leaned far over the water, arms outstretched. The object, a wooden packet, dropped into his hands. Regaining his balance with the treasure in his grasp, he had a delightful thought: chocolate. He opened the packet and realized, to his immense disappointment, that it wasn't chocolate. It held a message from the pilot, saying he'd lead supply planes back the next day to drop food. Before he flew off, the pilot dropped a candy bar with a bite taken out of it. Fitzgerald had it sliced into several hundred slivers. Each man licked a finger, dabbed it on his bit of chocolate, and put it in his mouth. Louis's portion was the size of an ant. Another American plane thrummed over, and a man fell from it. Down he fell, and no parachute opened. Everyone gasped. Then they realized it wasn't a man, it was a pair of pants stuffed with something. The officers retrieved the pants. Louis stood by as they were opened. Inside were cigarettes and candy bars, and the compound was soon littered with wrappers and naked, skinny, smoking men. Also in the pants was an American magazine. On the cover was a photograph of an impossibly massive bomb cloud. The men fell silent, piecing together the rumors of one giant bomb vaporizing a city and the abrupt end to the war. The Rock still sat by the barracks window, Louis's rope around it, but the conspirators were too late. The bird was gone. Sometime that day, or perhaps the day before, he'd slip into the countryside and vanished. That's the end of chapter 31. We'll get to 32 in the future.